So let's talk about the techniques, and one thing is, let's start discussing then what keeps you from taking on a new behavior, right? So I'm just going to outline some of the basics, and then we'll go into the specific techniques.
Right.
So first part of the techniques we've already discussed. One of the things that if you want to take on a new behavior, you need greater awareness. We talked about it. So keep working on your awareness muscle. Secondly,
to be aware of what the disempowering behavior really is, right?
Exactly, exactly. And being in touch with your ripple, your underlying desires, your BEED that we talked about, behaviors, emotions, energy levels, physiology, and your desires. So that brings me to the next point, which is you need to be more balanced. The more balanced you are, if you're very angry, it's the space for a new behavior is lower. If you're enthusiastic, it's higher. If you're anxious about the new behavior, it's more difficult. If you're optimistic and passionate about the new behavior, it's easier. So we've already taught balancing techniques where you need to go back to the emotional balance and get into an emotional state where it's easy to take on the new behavior. All right? So two things, awareness, balancing. The third is clarity. And you mentioned that at the opening. And one of the roles in clarity is if you have too many desires, you're overwhelmed. If you're overwhelmed, it's impossible to learn a new behavior. The example is like we discussed last time, if there are many buildings on fire, then you'll have very little firepower. You put a little bit of water on one building, you put a little bit of water on another building, and all the buildings catch fire, and you're not able to put any off. So the key thing is when you're taking on a new behavior, you have to create space for that. You have to prioritize that, not forever, for 30 days. And if you do that, then after 30 days, it becomes so much easier. It creates space for the next priority. But if you're working with 5 priorities at one time, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to put out any one of the fires.
Right. Let's dive into these behaviors a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So what I'd like to now do is give you 4 tips. And these 4 tips are the tips on which we're going to base our techniques. Then I'm going to take you through 2 techniques in particular out of the 4 tips that constitute this basic deliberate action methodology. Correct. Okay, so the first technique is called speed up, slow down. So you're at an intersection. You can go towards your desired behavior or your existing behavior. If you see yourself going towards your existing behavior, slow down. Do something else. Drink a glass of water, take a deep breath, and think about whether you really want to do that. And that'll give you the time to change. Now you're moving towards your desired behavior, but you're getting resistance. The moment you get the resistance, it's like you're standing in front of a swimming pool, the water is cold, you want to go in, you know you like it, just dive in. Don't think about it. That's the speed up.
Also, so you could say your monkey's going to start talking about how cold that water is, and so you got to act fast to get in motion.
Exactly. Don't give your monkey a chance then.
Right.
The second technique is, as you think about what needs to be done, there are 2 things you can focus on. One is the journey or the result. Say I am thinking about writing this book. I can think about, I need to finish the first chapter. That's very goal orientation. Or I could say, I need to work on it for 30 minutes. 30 minutes is focusing on the journey. I don't really care about whether I finish the first chapter or not. I don't even care whether I write 1 page or not. For 30 minutes, I'm going to sit on the desk. That means I'm going to focus on the journey. So the second pointer is, make the focus journey oriented rather than results oriented, because when you focus on the result, your resistances will go up. Your mind will start asking the question, why am I doing this in the first place? Nobody's going to read my book. I'm going to fail. The chances of success are very low, right? But once you focus on the journey, then magic happens. Because once you start writing, you might write 3 pages. You might start liking the 3 pages, and your optimism Your emotion related to the probability of success goes up drastically. That's the second point.
Joy is in the journey, not the destination.
Exactly, and keep a journey orientation rather than a destination orientation. The third point we have is removing game time decisions. So what happens is you're about to enter your new behavior. If, say, it's exercising, and you're now thinking, what kind of exercise should I do? Should I do aerobics or should I do yoga? If I do yoga, should I go to a yoga class or should I do a yoga tape? Right? There are many decisions. What should I wear? How many minutes should I do it for? You have to remove all game time decision making. So make it a script, make it routine. So remove all choices. So sit down beforehand and plan it out, such that all you have to do is brainless execution, because it helps point one, right, which was relative to speed. It allows you speed and removes all resistance. Make sense?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that's point 3. And the point 4 is a more challenging one, but quite important. Need not be done all the time, but associated with both behaviors, which is your current behavior and new behavior, they're beliefs, right? There's a belief that's making the current behavior more attractive. That's probably the reason why you've tried the new behavior before, but you keep going back to the existing behavior. And that belief is very deeply embedded. So say I'm trying to not eat sugar, but I keep eating chocolate cake when it appears. It's a matter of habit, but many of those habits are driven by some underlying beliefs. If I can take the covers off and look at that belief and say, that's the belief that's driving that desire to eat sugar, and starts my ripple, you can change the ripple and ending up with a new behavior rather than the old behavior. And we've been talking about how to reframe beliefs. We did that before relative to an emotion, and today we'll teach a technique where you reframe your beliefs relative to a behavior.